When we first did the hot dogs, we didn't think of it as a theme that was going to run through, but it did end up being that, you know. But it made sense to us as not only a thing that they might find in a place like that, but it kind of feels like a very American thing, you know.
We still have 2 episodes to go. You're not going to make us eat those hot dogs.
Well, spoiler alert, right? Spoiler alert.
Hot dogs.
I think it's interesting for a show that runs for so long originally, that when you have new characters and new actors coming in, it's like they're coming into your playground. But I feel with the Daryl Dixon series, it feels like you're kind of getting to go to other people's playgrounds because you're out of the country, you have different casts around you. Is that how it feels to you guys?
Yeah, I think it's a very different show, what we're making in Europe. It has some of the mythology from the other show, but you could start there, actually. The people of Spain and France, Spain are very passionate people, and some of the history of the places that we go to is involved in the storytelling, like Belchite, where the Spanish Civil War is, and different factions of that country deal with an apocalypse in different ways. It kind of revert back to old times, what it was like. But yeah, I think all of that.
Yeah, and I think from the beginning when we first were talking about it, the idea was finding interesting environments and communities that felt different from what we had seen on The Walking Dead, that didn't feel familiar, and creating characters in those environments that Daryl, and then later when Melissa came on, Carol, could interact with and be affected by. So it is, like you said, it's a bit different in that it's about them sort of experiencing, finding these new places, these new people, and then seeing how they get taken in by the stories that they encounter.
That also, I imagine, fits into bringing in a leper colony this time around as well.
Yeah. I thought you said leprechaun. So I was like,
You missed that one. Yeah. You missed the one where we did the leprechaun. Yeah, that one Norm was just referring to was shot in a town that was bombed during the Spanish Civil War, so it had references to that and trying to recapture some of the vibe of spaghetti westerns, most of which were filmed in that area where we were filming. So we were drawing on a lot of references there, but that's exactly right. It was like, how can we create an interesting environment that feels specific to Spain in this case, that doesn't feel like anything we've seen before, and that in that case Norman can come into as Daryl and sort of be affected by and have an effect on. And that one, I will say, I was just talking about that one scared me, because I was like, if we can't pull it off, the leper colony, then the whole thing will fall apart. And Greg and his guys did like probably the best job of anything that we've done, in my opinion. And they've done a bunch of great stuff, but that one like really needed that. And so all those characters and all those interactions were realized partially because the whole team like sort of came through.
That's one of my favorite episodes. Yeah. I feel like that episode embodies what the Daryl Dixon series always wanted to be. The show has evolved, and it does have some DNA associated with the original series, but probably like seasons 1 and 2 only, you know, where you're meeting people. But, you know, when Norman talked about the show, it was always like you meet a group of people, you know, they're affected by that interaction, and then Daryl moves on and everybody's changed. And I think that particular episode embodies exactly what we've always wanted the show to be. And I'm really proud of it. I love it.
there's an aspect to Discovery with The Walking Dead, the original one, in as much as that there's like this fog of the apocalypse. You don't know what's around you. And this series is Discovery times 10. Yeah. That fog really ignites the audience's imagination. They're always coming up and saying, what about this? What about that? What about this? This show answers a lot of questions they have.
That being said, there are also clearly things that, not thought ahead about seasons ahead of time, but it's like we're kind of putting hot dogs as a linchpin in our entire 3rd season, you know?
People keep asking me if we ate those hot dogs yet.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
When we first did the hot dogs, we didn't think of it as a theme that was going to run through, but it did end up being that, you know. But it made sense to us as not only a thing that they might find in a place like that, but it kind of feels like a very American thing, you know.
We still have 2 episodes to go. You're not going to make us eat those hot dogs.
Well, spoiler alert, right? Spoiler alert.
The finale.
Hot dogs.
And we already talked about the idea of spaghetti westerns, and there were some shots in some of these seasons that I can feel it, especially with the music coming in. But also in that same Leper Colony episode, we get closest to our Mad Max episode for a Walking Dead universe. Was it something interesting and also kind of exploring those kind of things as well?
I mean, we weren't as conscious of the Mad Max, although that's definitely in there too. We were conscious of trying to portray a world that feels wild, that feels untethered and sort of chaotic and out of control. So that's very Mad Max, I think. And definitely we were trying to do that even with the Primitivos earlier and in the season and throughout. But definitely in that episode, it ended up having a flavor of that. But we were really leaning in to the Western first and foremost. But that episode in particular is definitely like, we're going to do a spaghetti Western.
It was my favorite.
Yeah, that's great. And the train, all the stuff with the train, there's something, because it's a Western and you get that whole train vibe, and the whole fight scene in the train was so, it just really felt so different than what we had done before.
And that was also an example of trying to find ways to like use walkers in interesting environments, interesting situations and we're always trying to do that. We've been doing that, I think, we've had some success doing that throughout this show, now in season 3, but that was an example of that. It was like, well, how can we westernize the idea of walkers? And well, there's trains in a story like this. There's always a train. There's a bad guy on a train. Well, how's a bad guy on a train using walkers? And so that you see that scattered throughout the show, but that was, I think, one of the best ones we've done was the idea of these walkers pulling this train through the desert.
It's great to have people come in for one episode, but then when you have somebody like Stephen Merchant, who does a great job in general, but also on the show, it's like, I wish maybe we could have kept him around for a little bit longer.
Yeah, we loved Stephen.
We all fell in love with him, for sure.
Totally. And I mean, both story-wise, but also importantly, Steven's a very busy guy. Like it wouldn't be that character played by that actor if we were trying to sustain it over a long period of time. So it's sort of inevitable. But it wasn't conceived to be a character that lived on. But as we were watching it and working on it, we definitely had the same feeling. Like, this guy's great, and it's a great dynamic with Norman and great dynamic with Melissa, and we'd love to keep him around. But we've got other fish to fry, as it were.
If you had to pluck Daryl out of the Walking Dead universe into something else, whether it be supernatural or not, some overbearing power, what do you think he would do the best handling?
Lifeguard? You'd be a lifeguard?
He would be riding a jet ski.
I think it's a John Carpenter movie. I think he's in
I saw he played,
Big Trouble in Little China.
He played here yesterday.
Last night.
Escape from New York.
Or Big Trouble. I think Big Trouble in Little China.
I saw someone sent me a clip. He's up on stage like rock star.
I said
Carpenter was here?
He did a concert.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Greg went.
I went last night. Cool. John Carpenter was rocking it.
I want to set him up with Debbie Harry. Is he married, John?
He's married.
Oh, shit. I was trying to set her up with David Cronenberg, and she was having none of it.
I'm available, Norman, if you need to.
She's
to
cool.
Set me up with Debbie Harry.
Nobody cooler than Debbie, but he's married. That's right. He's totally married.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.